So just from the panel, anyone who'd like to talk about how to actually create and maintain a regular practice of meditation? Suzanne?
I think the main thing is that if the technique that you're using gives you an immediate benefit every time that you do it, and if the technique is something that's effortless and easy and enjoyable, guess what? You're going to do it. If we don't see a benefit, we won't continue. But if you can sit down on the couch and you can sit there and transcend for 20 minutes and get up off the couch and feel more coherent, more lively, more interested in doing your activity, that you don't get as tired at the end of the day, and then at the end of the day you can sit down and feel like doing it again, then you know you've got a technique that works for you. The problem generally is that people are trying to meditate. People are trying to control the mind and turn the mind in. And these things are very unpleasant because they go against the nature of the mind. So find a practice that is completely, utterly effortless. Something that enables your mind to experience those more refined and delicate and enjoyable, expansive layers of the mind, and that you can do anywhere because we are busy. This is a very dynamic world and there's lots of activity we're called to do. And it isn't necessary to be a recluse and to go and sit in an ashram to enjoy. You should be able to sit and close your eyes and meditate effortlessly if you have the right knowledge to do that, and you're taught properly by an experienced teacher. You'll be able to sit and transcend on a tram in the middle of Melbourne in Burke Street, and it will not be an issue for you. And your mind will settle down effortlessly, your body will follow because the mind is settling down and transcending thought. The body will get very, very deep rest. And it's actually that deep rest that does everything for us. It's deep rest that dissolves stress. It's only when the mind is silent and quiet and experiencing that most inner, silent, transcendental quality that the body can actually gain profound rest and enliven the body's self-healing inner mechanisms, those homeostatic balancing mechanisms, and switch those on and dissolve all the chemicals that have come from the undue pressure of experience, from the stress and strain. And it doesn't have to be negative, it's just overload. That overload, it strains our nervous system and changes the chemical and physical structure of the brain. And so if we can give ourselves a regular practice that enables the mind to settle down and transcend and gives the body that rest, dissolves the stress, removes the fatigue, then we come out of meditation and we can enjoy life more. We can be the best we can be. We can see the world in high definition. And we can react and interact with people with more tolerance and more compassion in a spontaneous way. And then we actually see it, as Tammy was saying, she sees the benefits and people can tell you how you've changed because you've changed your nervous system. When you give your body rest, it changes the nervous system, and we are a result of the quality of our nervous system, and that is determined by what we do with our mind. And so every experience is going to change your mind. The experience of regular meditation, of transcending those surface active layers, will change your nervous system, and you can start to live enlightenment, live higher states of consciousness in an effortless way, and be the best you can be. And then you'll continue meditating regularly.
Thank you. Tell me, what about yourself when you first started practice of meditation? How did you make it part of your life?
I think initially, because I was determined that I had to do something, like I actually wasn't happy with how tired I was feeling and I felt worn out, that for me it was, well, I can either stay here, feel the same way, or I can actually do something about it. So my intention was from the beginning that I wanted to engage in the practice and give myself the best opportunity to really learn it. So for me, making the decision was a big part of it, because then I put my effort into meditating on a daily basis. And I did start experiencing, though, benefits straight away. I did feel that much better just from sitting and doing something for myself. And I think one of the things that I've really found in teaching most people is that it's very hard for a lot of people. They think it's selfish if they prioritize themselves. And it's still something that a lot of people hang on to. And I think that you do in essence, though, if you can look after yourself, then all those around you benefit as well. So for me, it became, I need to look after myself so I can look after my children, my husband, and my life. But if I don't do that, then that wasn't going to happen. So I started off again for twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. It wasn't always at a set time because it had to work with my schedule. So if it was when the kids were down for a nap, that's when I did it. If it was right before I went to bed, that's when I did it. As the years went on and I was meditating regularly, it was the first thing in the morning, like Rob. I get up, I stood up in bed, I'm already relaxed because I've just woken up, so my body, I haven't moved yet, I haven't turned on the phone, I don't look at a computer, and I just sit up in bed and I meditate. That's, for me, is a very easy way to start my day, and that's how I do start my day. You know, it is like brushing my teeth, except for that's my, you know, it's that is my non-negotiable is I meditate first thing. And then your day starts, and what I have found is that because my days flowed so much more easily when I did meditate, that when I didn't, I would be in the afternoon kicking myself going, my day has not gone that well. Exactly. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't meditate. And it really came down to that. That's what made it a habit for me, was having the experiences myself, knowing I was feeling better, knowing that my energy levels were there, and I was much happier. So I think the hardest thing for most people right now, though, in our society is that so many of us are used to this quick fix, and they almost want a pill. And the reality is, meditation, it's a cumulative practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and the easier it becomes. So it's not it's not this quick fix, take a pill. You do have to sit, and you do have to practice. And for anyone, it's just, as I started off this discussion, it's setting the intention that you actually really want to do this, and see if, you know, as Johnny said, all the research that's around the world, and that keeps coming out, it works, and it's easy, but you do have to sit and practice.
Fantastic. So I think we now have some time for questions from the audience to the panel. I think between the five of us, there's at least 100 years worth of meditation experience. So please feel free to ask any questions, no matter what they may be, and we're happy to answer.
Hi, I've never meditated. This is the first instruction I've ever looked into it. Where do I start? What's the best advice you can give? What I can go away today and put this into practice?
Depends on who you're asking.
Depends which of the five people who've assessed the elephant and what they've experienced. But I can only talk from my perspective. When I first started meditating back in 1991, it was through the recommendation of my auntie, my father's sister. I'd heard that meditation was something useful, and she pointed me in the direction of a meditation teacher in Chennai, Madras, and I sort of stumbled across that place and started the regular practice of meditation. And it's just sort of, it just went on without much effort for about 15 years, and it became part of my daily life. So I would start by speaking to friends, speaking to other people who've meditated. It's important to do your research because there are so many different traditions and aspects of meditation. I'm not sure if you followed earlier in the year, there was a yoga ashram here in Melbourne, and there were some big problems with a yoga guru getting into trouble with students. And these kind of things unfortunately give meditation a bad name. Just because there's one bad egg doesn't mean that there's many bad eggs. And I do hear people saying, oh, this Swami or this sadhu is like this, and they equate that to the whole lot being bad. But it's important to do your research, speak to people, read widely, and then just try something. And if it seems to be suiting you, go with it. If it doesn't, then move on. I think, as Tammy was saying, the regular practice is important. It is a cumulative effect. And if you don't notice anything within one day, don't give it up and move to the next one. You really have to commit to a certain practice, probably for at least a period of 6 months, to see what kind of effect it's having upon you. And I often use the analogy of the seed and the tree. In the very early stages of meditation and your meditation practice, it needs to be nurtured and protected. You need to be a little bit selfish about your meditation practice. have a time when you do it, have a place that you do it, and just have that as sacred time that is not going to be interrupted and is not negotiable with anything happening around you. And then just go about your meditation practice for 6 months and see what's happening.
Can I make a recommendation? So as a general principle, there's quality. There's low quality and high quality and everything in between. The prerequisite should always be that the person that's teaching you has had a solid practice themselves for no less than 5 years. I would generally seek out a teacher that has trained under their teacher for no less than 3 years, and that this is what they do as their job. Avoid people that do it on weekends, that teach on weekends. I'm sorry if there's any weekend teachers out there. But this is the mind we're talking about. The single most precious and important thing, the greatest mystery. And, it's the difference between, going and getting brain surgery from a cosmetic surgeon. There is training and there is training. And so the questions you really need to be asking of your teacher is, where did this come from? How, to what degree have you practiced it? What are the benefits that you've got? How have you been trained? And what is the process of teaching me, and what's the commitment? And then see how that fits with you. But you need to be asking these questions if you're seeking out a practice that you want to go on a journey with. There are a lot of weekend courses and things that you can do. And there are a lot of teacher training programs that are only weekend courses. And so you want to sift through that stuff and make sure that whoever you're learning with is somebody that is being trained. I don't know if we're going to get to the technology question. We are? Oh, okay, great. Well, I won't answer that then until then.
Thanks very much for the conversation this evening. Really, you lead into my question with that last comment about the number of years of training, etc. And it just seems to me, if I look at the population of 7 billion people, there must be a lot of people who meditate through self-teaching, and there must be a lot of meditation that goes along in the world without necessarily coming from a formal background.
Yes.
Could I have a comment on that, please?
Sure. Yep. Yes, the idea of meditation is well and truly out in the collective, and there are a lot of people that I've met that are quite happy with what it is that they do and what they define as meditation. And to those people I say, fantastic, if you're enjoying what you're doing and you're getting benefits from it, wonderful. There are a lot of people out there that are earnestly trying to elicit a transformation in their mind and their body through a regular practice, and are not getting anywhere. And are not, the whole process is very unsuccessful. And that's just because, they haven't been trained. There is a nature to the mind, and there is a sequence that we can follow to elicit its greatest potential, to enliven its greatest potential. And there are an enormous amount of books written that are very old, and great masters that have the capability of interpreting the meaning and the subtle nuances of these books to expound how to go about this process, of which a lot of this knowledge is permeating the West as we speak. It's very exciting. There's some really quality knowledge here in the West about how to go about doing this thing. You just got to find them. And but it's happening. There's a movement. The knowledge is becoming more and more available, more palatable to our sensibility.
I'm going to ask Johnny to touch on technology as well, but I just wanted to add something to that. I'm a very keen golfer. It's one of my obsessions, and I go along and have golf lessons. If you look at professional golf, there are very, very few professional golfers who are self-taught, who've never had a golf lesson. The vast majority need to have had some kind of instruction to get things right with their setup, their stance, their swing, etc. That small number of professionals who've managed to do it on their own, it's good luck. I guess the same applies to meditation as well. There is actually a method with teaching and training, and people who have gone through the process of learning meditation and becoming trained as a teacher are in a very good place to instruct. However, there may be a small percentage of people who are able to do that themselves. So I'm not saying that you can't teach yourself meditation, but when you have the benefit of people who have studied for many years, that would be my take on it. Johnny, can you say just a little bit about technology, 5 minutes on technology and aids that are using for meditation?
Sure, because I've taken up so much time, I'll do it in 3. So to answer your question about where to get started, well, the question is how can technology be a vehicle to, from my perspective as a teacher, this knowledge and these capabilities, these skills need to be spread out en masse really quickly, actually. This knowledge of how to master our consciousness, understand the nature of our mind, and create coordination between our desires and our ability to enact them. These skills need to be developed very, very quickly if we're going to get through this little trouble period over the next 20 years of human existence. And so I run an organisation with an awesome group of people called One Giant Mind that has taken upon itself to address this challenge of how to take quality instruction of how to elicit the desired response in the mind to the masses through technology. And so we've created a smartphone app. There are many meditation smartphone apps out there. This particular one actually teaches you. It doesn't just take you to your happy place and you don't know how you got there. This one actually teaches you the nature of the mind and how to replicate the experience and eventually relinquish the dependency on the technology. So if you're interested, it's a free app. The One Giant Mind is a charity. The whole thing's not for profit. We're here just basically to create millions and millions of meditators in the world. And I'm hoping by the end of this year you're going to know a lot more about One Giant Mind just generally in the public.
It's a wonderful service. Question up the back there?
Hi. Thanks so much for sharing all of your knowledge and personal experiences, guys. It's been really interesting. I just wanted to ask, do you think it would be beneficial to teach meditation to children in schools? Or do you think meditation is something that people should come through naturally out of their own desire? And if you think it would be beneficial, how would it be done in practice, do you think?
I'll answer this because it's something that we do all over the world through transcendental meditation. TM is something that can be taught to children from the age of 4. We have a children's technique, but we teach the adult technique from the age of 10. So in Melbourne here we have Maharishi's School here in Reservoir in our northern suburbs, and there are many thousands of schools all over the world where we have a thing called Change from Within. And this is a program that's promoted to teach transcendental meditation at around the age of 10 to 12 years of age, when the brain is not yet myelinated. Myelination means it's like concrete being laid down in the brain. So if we can give the experience of transcending and teach people in a systematic way where we can go into a school and these young brains, we can teach everybody, the teachers, the faculty, the students, everyone learns to meditate. The bell rings at the beginning of the day and everyone sits down in the corridor wherever they are and they all experience TM. And then the bell rings and they get on with their day. But what's happening is that we're training the brain. We're enabling the brain to come online and become coherent and orderly. We're reducing the stress in the nervous system because the silence in the mind creates that rest in the body. And so what happens then is that these children, they not only comprehend better, they enjoy better, but when they're starting to actually grow their brain, they're growing a more coherent, more wakeful brain. They're using more of their brain to think and act and enjoy and go out in the life, and they're becoming the soldiers for progress in their environments. And so we teach this all over the world. Often at-risk children are taught through our centres all over the world for free. We go in and we teach this often through the David Lynch Foundation. Some of you may know David Lynch, he was here in Australia recently. And we go and we teach the whole school, 1,000 people. And when you get 1,000 people sitting down and transcending together, you create a big lighthouse of coherence and orderliness and peace in the environment. And that radiates out and affects the whole collective consciousness. So personally, as a TM teacher, I believe that we should be teaching our children around the age of 10 to 12 years of age in school. It would be the cheapest and most effective. It is completely and utterly well established through scientific research and published that this is the best way to change the brain and to upgrade it and to create successful, happy human beings. And then they can myelinate their brains so that they are more expanded and go out and enjoy their lives and actually create the type of world that we imagine it could be when our brains are functioning properly.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and I agree entirely. If children can learn to meditate whilst they're in school, it's such a valuable skill. Our children go to a little school in Hawthorne where they are actually taught how to, I wouldn't say meditate to start off with, they can learn meditation round about grade 4, but initially it's just called a pause, and the pause is integrated through their daily life. They do it at the start of the day, they do it periodically through the day, and they do it at the end of the day. So whether they like it or not, they're sort of just imbibing that and it becomes part of their being. More questions?
Can I share my experience?
Sure.
Can I
Speak up.
I've been practicing as a surgeon in Melbourne for 42 years. Prior to that, I worked for 5 years in India. There is a condition called ulcerative colitis. In India, I have never seen a single case of ulcerative colitis. Here in Australia, it's very, very common. Initially, it is treated with medicine. If it's not controlled, they go to the surgeon and they report the entire large intestine and give you a bag. So in my practice, what I used to do, treat them medically and ask them to attend the Vivekananda Meditation Center. Those people who regularly attended the meditation, the frequency of attacks and severity of attacks had considerably gone down. Some of them, after a while, they give up. When they give it up, it does flare up. So this is one. The second is, I learned TM in 1971. My son doesn't know that I do practice.
This is great. Before the Johnny Walker.
Lots of people who have that secret.
As a surgeon, you do encounter cases. I was an oncology surgeon. You're trying to dissect out the cancer. Suddenly, out of the blue, there's a real gush of blood, like opening the tap. In those cases, a lot of people tend to panic. My teacher used to tell me, put a couple of packs there, go to the window, and close your eyes and meditate. I practiced that exactly. Put a few packs, ask the assistant to hold on to it, go to the window, and practice the mantra that was taught to me. And my mind was in an absolute calm. When I come back, I'm totally relaxed. I just take the 2 packs off, and I'm able to control the situation very well. Finally, in the United States, in a lot of hospitals, meditation is a part of oncology treatment. If they do meditate, the brain secretes endorphins. The endorphins have an inhibitory effect or suppression effect on the cancer growth. They normally give the chemotherapy or surgery, whatever it is done. Along with that, meditation is a part and parcel of oncological treatment. I thought I'll share these experiences as a surgeon who has practiced for 53 years. Thank you.
We've got time for one more question before, I'm sure everyone is now dying to meditate. So Johnny's going to lead us through a meditation. We've got time for one more question.
Hi. Just moving away from individual practice at the moment, I was just curious to see what each of you had to offer in terms of when people meditate in groups. So obviously you've got sporting, you've got corporate, Then you've also got goodwill groups, you've got people that are trying to make positive change to humanity by getting together and thinking positive thoughts, and then also teaming up. So you have somebody in Melbourne that will be meditating at the same time as somebody in London that's meditating at the same time in China, and God knows what, everywhere. But the impact that group meditation has for these, when meditating as a group, with a particular type of focus, and how we can use that to benefit us in Melbourne. So.
I think transcendental meditation has studied that extensively with the collective consciousness. Suzanne, would you like to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before about the mind being like an ocean. Well, think of us all like being individual waves on that ocean. And when we settle down, we are all one. So the collective consciousness is just the sum total of the individual quality of consciousness of all of those in it. And when we meditate, then we create more coherence, more harmony in our nervous system, and what's inside radiates out. And so when we sit with others together, then we create a big lighthouse, as I was saying, of coherence. And so we do have a much bigger impact on our environment through our behaviour, our thoughts, our speech, our action, be it at home or at work, if we've already had that opportunity to create a nervous system that radiates that quality. So I would encourage people to sit together and meditate, absolutely, and have that opportunity. There's about 13 studies that have been published so far showing that even in war-torn areas, like in Lebanon, when we had a group that sat for 30 days and they sat together, and when they increased the group of people sitting, transcending together, the war deaths went down. And when the group reduced, the war deaths went up. And so there's a great Vedic saying that in the area where there's coherence and where there's harmony, it's impossible for that force to rise, that animosity to be there, because positivity will always rule over negativity. And that field of pure awareness that we experience when we transcend, it's the ultimate field of positivity and coherence and harmony. It is that from which everything rises. So when we touch that with our individual mind, we enliven it in our own physiology, changing our nervous system, changing the way our physiology operates, and our health improves, but it actually enlivens it for everyone in the field. So if we put a group of 4,000 people meditating in Washington, DC, like we did about 20 years ago, we could measure the change in the EEG of someone on the other side of the United States who knew nothing about the group in Washington, DC. Their brain became more coherent, more orderly. So when we meditate together, yes, we should have a group for government. We should have a group of people sitting together, meditating every day in a stadium just like this. And if we were to do that, then 1% of the population transcending together would be enough to change everything. Even for people who were not interested in meditation at all. Their brain would become more orderly, more harmonious, their behaviour would change, and people would start to move in the direction of progress and growth. So that really is the key. Instead of dealing with the problem on the level of the problem, then you bring in the second element. If there's darkness, just turn on the light. Don't fight the darkness. Just turn on the light. Just enliven consciousness by transcending. And do it in a group, you're much more powerful, yes.
So recently the Indian government started a ministry of yoga. I'm not sure if you'd heard about that, but quite an innovative thing. I don't think any other government in the world has appointed a minister in the field of yoga, and hopefully when India plays tomorrow in the World Cup, some of those Indian cricket players have imbibed the meditation techniques. Professor Mathu, who we're happy to have back in Australia, is going to say a few words now. Thank you.
I just want to thank all of you for this fantastic session on behalf of the Australia India Institute. Beginning with you, Ranjit, we have a copy of our newly published History of Australia-India Relations, and please share it with Dr. Rao as well. Rob, Ken, a copy of this.
Thank you very much.
And paying to the Institute, Tammy, Suzanne.
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.